Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Live from My Drum Room. Today's episode is a combination Live from My Drum Room Track Talk episode with returning champion, my old friend, legendary drummer, composer, and producer, Stan Lynch. And in this episode, we do a deep dive into many of Stan's iconic recordings with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And in fact, we went about 2 hours on the live show. So what I've done is I've broken this into 2 episodes. This is part 1. So fasten your seatbelt, come along for the ride, and I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy part 1. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you soon. Please welcome.
An undisclosed location out in the woods.
Please welcome Stan Lynch, everybody. Yes. All right.
I'm in witness protection, man.
Oh man, I introduced you as I said I have a very handsome drummer, composer, and producer waiting to come on, and many people are commenting. Not surprisingly, females are saying very handsome. So anyway, thank you for being here, Stan.
I don't think I'm going to be trading on my good looks anytime soon, man. I think we can let that go.
I think you can do that as long as you want.
It's okay. I think let's trade on personality today, or at least something. Let's go. All right.
All right, man. It's always so fun to have you here with me to talk drums, to talk music, to get your incredible insights on music in general, but I love just to talk about all the great songs you've recorded throughout the years, and you know, you always have just such great stories and insight into these songs. So thank you for being here today.
My pleasure, John. I go way back with you. You've maybe people don't really understand how important you've been to so many drummers that you've said such kind things about, but the truth is you're a real lodestone and a real linchpin in getting everybody here. And I don't know that that's been celebrated quite enough. So here's to you. And I really mean it. It's like, you know,
thank you.
And you keep a lot of us talking to each other. I've met all of my heroes through you. And I really appreciate that. So I think your audience needs to know that you're a big piece of this, man. You know.
Thank you. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say to that. Thank you.
Yeah, take it.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take the win. Thank you.
All right.
You know, and for anybody who isn't aware of this already, I've had Stan on with me a number of times in the past, and they've all been memorable, great episodes, and really, truly, like, lots of people watch them. You're always a big, we've talked about this too. I think part of it is the fact that you've always been pretty, reserved about these types of things that you do. And I appreciate that you do them with me, and I can lure you in from time to time, but
it's a pleasure.
Yeah. And having said that, it's there's such a demand for people to kind of hear your stories and hear your history. And so having said that, we've covered a lot of stuff in the past. So I was going to try to not repeat too much of that today, and we could talk about some new things. And thanks to you, you've given me some great ideas for songs to maybe just sort of kick around, some deep tracks with the Heartbreakers. And I thought maybe we could even sort of jump in for a second, if you want to kind of get right down to it.
Spring it on me, man.
All right, cool. And the first song that I'm going to play, and we're going to go back a little further, a little later, but we're going to go back to Damn the Torpedoes in 1979, which can't believe it's been 45 years.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. Wow. And I was hip to your playing before this record, but this record, for so many people and drummers, friends that I had coming up at that time as a 18, 19-year-old kid, this was the record that really just cemented, to me, your place in the history and the pantheon of all the great, really, Stan. I know you hate when I say this stuff, but there's so much great playing on this record. And so take it. And and I'm gonna play You Tell Me from Damn the Torpedoes, and then we'll maybe just talk about it a little bit. Does that sound?
Do it.
All right, here we go.
there's a lot going on in there.
There's a
A lot of
lot going.
music.
Yeah.
The first thing that I hear is Duck Dunn. I hear Duck Dunn, and it's
Yeah.
like, and man, and then I hear Benmont. As much as I hear, of course, I hear Tom, and I hear and I hear the song, but from the drummer place, excuse me, I hear something really cool happening between everybody. It's like this wonderful shell game of passing the ball. Like,
Yeah.
okay, are you going to take that one? Are you taking that little hole? Are you? And I guess a lot of drummers will understand this, especially early in life. Are we jumping or are we playing straight? Like, are we bump, bump, or are we just
Yeah.
bump, bump,
Yeah.
don't bump? And it's like, that was always one of those things when I was younger. It used to scare me because I wanted to always have that spelled out. Like, is this a jump? Am I going pop, pop, like Las Vegas? Or am I just breezing? And I remember asking Duck those kind of questions, like, do you want me to push that change? And he was so dismissively, warmly dismissive, like smoking the pipe, going,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Just do your thing and I'll get with you. And it was like, boy, that's actually a jam. I mean, nothing's worked out. It's nothing,
Okay.
there's no thought in any of this. There's no like, I'm gonna start we probably played that track a dozen times. Every intro was different.
Yeah.
That was the one I just decided I'm gonna play. I'm gonna put the coals to it a little early, and because I could have just waited 8 bars and nobody would have cared. It wouldn't be like, oh, Lynch, you made a mistake, and I'm prattling, but the point I'm making is I think Benmont once called it chamber music, where like when a rock band is doing the thing that they're supposed to do, they all just take, Benmont's playing a hi-hat part. He's going da, da,
Mhm.
da, da. He's just playing this beautiful 8 notes and they're perfectly in time. So it's taking all the pressure off. I ain't driving that. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm playing along.
Yeah.
I'm tumbling along with the guys, and I love that kind of music. And it's really a once in a lifetime thing. If you get a band that can do that, you probably ought to put up with their shit for a while, because it's it's a pretty special thing to have happen, and you may not ever hear it again. And it's like,
Yeah.
so that's what I hear. Anyway,
That's
I'm
beautiful, Stan. That makes so much sense to me because it has such a fresh sound. It sounds like a song that hasn't been beaten to death, if that even makes any sense. Like
oh, of course
it
it
really,
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about those little like those sort of anticipated things that you do. You kind of, it's sort of like in Refugee, you play some of those little things too, you know, da da da, and it's
Refugee was probably, I mean, there were probably 100 takes of Refugee. So yes, it had the life beaten out of it. You know what I mean? It wasn't a performance. It was like almost like a to be or not to be. It was like I'm reading, like at that point, I'd written my drum part. The song was
yeah,
well written. Mike had a beautiful demo. Um, this one was more like we can craft this thing anyway. And that was the cool thing. Tom was really good with that, in spite of the producer who was there, who was very like, I
right,
want to hear a take. I want to know what you guys are all going to do every time. And we were pretty loose. And
hmm,
that take would have never happened if somebody had said, you need to, rehearse all these sections and know exactly what you're going to do. It would have sounded like squeezing toothpaste. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yep,
And this is just more like pouring a water jug of music out. And Tom's just, going with it. And there's no clock, there's no click track, there was no tempo map.
yeah, yeah,
It was like more like a jam. Tom would, a lot of songs he would start, literally my memory is he didn't even use a pick. He sort of would play the back with his fingers, like he's just kind of showing you, implying like, here's where I'm feeling it. And it was very much directed at me, like we were both in the room together facing each other, only a few feet apart. It was like, kind of like he was hipping me to where he thought it would go. And then I would take liberties. And if it worked, nobody said a thing. It was like, hey, there's a take, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and Ron Blair was on the rest of the record, right? That was,
I believe, I don't really know what all the credits were, but Ron was, well, is that Damn the Torpedoes or is that the next record?
that's Damn the Torpedoes.
I don't know what happened. I think maybe Duck was in town
Yeah.
and it was like, hey, Duck's going to come down and play, you know?
Yeah.
And he did. And it was, you know, which is always extraordinary, you know? It's
Yeah,
like, that's
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
that's like if somebody were to say Levon's coming down, it'd be like, I would give him my sticks, go get him a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? Ask if he needed his laundry done. What are you having for lunch? You know, it's like, please play this
Yeah.
track, you know?
Yeah.
There were
absolutely.
moments, there's moments where, you know, is it okay if I watch?
Well, I only asked that because I just wondered if there was any sort of basic examples or differences between the way that's because I know that was before Howie joined the band. So presumably Ron was, you know, he was still in the band playing the shows and all that. And Duck, of course, is Duck Dunn. I mean, he's just, you know, I mean, the epitome of just legendary. But for you as the drummer, were there some real significant differences? And I hate to say that to take anything away from Ron, because I think he's a great bass player, but
Oh, he is. Ron's a great musician. He's a great guitar player. So, and
was
he
it
is.
Duck's feel? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Ron was very, when the band was assembled, Ron and I created a certain, like a thing where he was very, aggressive with the kick drum with me. Like we did just the opposite. We would plan. Like
Yeah.
if it was don't. I mean, we were almost punk in our approach to the rhythm. Like it was, Duck was, you know, just very different. And Duck played with his fingers. My memory is Ron played with a pick and
Yeah.
Duck was, so the difference was it was very, very loose. And he probably was thinking way outside the box. And I imagine he had no he didn't know who these guys were. You know, Duck was a friend or maybe he knew somebody or, you know, but he wasn't like a fan or he was like, I'm just going to play a song the way I feel it. And
Yeah.
Ron would have probably played it more like, here's what we expect, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a different, anytime you tinker with the mixture with 4 or 5 guys, you pull somebody in, you pull somebody out. It's the equivalent, you know, Billy Preston joins the Beatles. It's a different band.
Yeah.
It's a very different band. And I'm not drawing a false equivalency, but you put someone else in any seat in that room, the dynamic is completely changed. It was huge to see, you know, have Duck Dunn in the room. Just his presence is a big difference than Ron.
Yeah.
Neither good nor bad, not judgmental. Ron steps into the room, holy shit,
Yeah.
Daddy's home. You know what I mean? I had the pleasure of playing with Ron last year. And man, I had to actually at sound check, ask everybody to leave. Like, Ron, would you just play a couple of these old songs with just me and you? I just want to hear that. And just hear instinctively, because I never really got to hear that, you know, because there was always this cacophony of, you know, but it was like, and man, it just made my heart melt, you know, as an old fart to hear that rhythm section. You know, I was outside of myself. I was just going, oh, that's the noise those knuckleheads make intuitively. And we must have played 3 or 4 songs together. And it was like getting an embrace from an old lover, man. It was great. I loved it.
That's beautiful.
You know? Yeah.
I can totally understand what you're saying about that too. Like where, you know, you were in the moment for all those years and it's like, you probably never ever really thought about like, boy, it'd be great to be able to just sit here and play with Ron and hear what it sounds like. It was like sound check, do the, you know, play the tune, whatever, do the show that night or whether it's the studio. But as we get older, you reflect on things and you think, shit, man, this guy is a motherfucker bass player, and he
Oh
was my
yeah.
partner for all these years. And let's just you and me play, and I want to feel it and hear it.
I said it under the guise of I needed it for the monitors. I said it, I wanted
Yeah,
because I was trying to build my sub with him and my kick drum. So I said it more under the guise of like, would you do me a favor so I can get my sound dialed in? Because I didn't want to tell everybody like, I'm really not interested in what you guys are doing. It's like, because that's cold and it's cruel. And I
yeah,
also didn't want to put Ron on the spot, like, hey man, you're so great. It's just like, so I'm learning the producer in me is you throw the breadcrumb, and if anybody bites, then you set the hook,
yeah,
but once we played one song, it was like, yeah, let's do another one. It was like, and you could just see Ron he, everybody's been in a band knows it. Everybody just sets their face. Like Ron had this jaw. He would like, when he was working good, it was like, he put his jaw into it. And it was like, man, he's doing it. It was like, this is great.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah, so I got that, and I had a
Yeah,
couple moments like that with Mike, and I got a moment like that with Ben when he came down to visit me. We just played in a room together, and it was really nice to remember that that was really good and very
yeah,
innocent, just innocent to be in a band. And so anybody who's in a band out there, like I said, if you have something good, reel it in and don't worry about what you're not able to do. That's not important. Do what you can do, and what you're doing is probably really good. And if you do it long enough, nobody else will be able to do that.
right on. That's great advice. That's money advice right there, Stan. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so obvious, like later in life to go like, oh, why was I worrying about what this other great drummer was doing when all I had to do was do this? And if I did it long enough, it becomes a tattoo. And okay, great.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway, so you tell me that was good. I don't remember cutting it, but I remember when I do hear it occasionally on the radio or something, I kind of get sucked in because it feels like a walk through the woods. You're not really sure where you're going to come out. Like it's like, it doesn't feel by rote at all. And I
yeah,
love music like that. I love that.
yeah, yeah. That's a great way to describe it. And it sounds to me, there's so many songs on that particular record where, and you've told me this too, where like, you're really hitting the drums to get the sound that Shelley or that Jimmy wanted you to get on that track. Like, you physically had to really, and it sounds like you're able to play more kind of the way you like to play, just with a lighter touch and, with more dynamics in that song.
It
It
was
feels,
it was a great experiment, and I was probably in my mind as we were tracking it, I was sure that was not the track.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I was
yeah,
sure that they were going to go, that's way too loose. There's way too many shadow beats. There's way too many ghost notes. Because Jimmy made fun of ghost notes because they didn't track with that snare drum. He would
yeah,
solo the snare drum and kind of put my face in the pie and go, what is all this? And it would be like, well, that's kind of this, it's kind of drumming, but it's like not what, it wasn't because the night. It wasn't
yeah,
what he wanted to hear. And I
yeah,
totally respect that, but this one, I got away with something that if you tried to do that with more aggression, and you tried to play that heavy-handed, I think you'd sound a little bit like a pud knocker, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
I think you
yeah.
would, but anyway, all right,
You found the
enough of
right
that.
velocity, the perfect velocity for that. Yeah.
All accidents.
Oh, Joe Vitale is watching, by the way, the great Joe
All right,
Vitale.
Joe. Yeah, he sure is, man. Love his
And he,
book.
oh
Love his
yeah, me
book,
too,
man.
me too.
Yeah,
And
if you
he
haven't
just,
read it, get it.
absolutely, yeah. Called Backstage Pass, in fact, everybody, check it out. And Joe said this, Stan, this is great. One of the cuts I did with Joe Walsh, the producer said, play it like a Stan Lynch groove.
Oh,
Man,
wow.
how about
Jeez.
that? So
I don't even know what to say except, wow, that's pretty deep coming from Joe, man.
that's heavy.
Yeah,
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 that's great.
yeah. Joe sits high on that mountain for me, man.
Me too.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great creative guy, man. He's another one of those like, yeah, you can call him a drummer, but he's a badass musician. He really
right.
is.
Yeah, he sure is. And another great drummer is watching, Fred Corey, drummer for the band Cinderella.
Oh yeah,
And
sure.
I don't know if you ever work with those guys, but he said
No.
Stan taught me the art of bass drum finesse, and
Wow.
I would totally agree with that. I would say I definitely, like a lot of drummers, stole some of that from you. So what little finesse I have anyway.
Hey,
But
great. I mean, I can't speak to any of that except to say thank you. But I know that it was like probably all of us, we did what we could at the time. You know what I mean? We were all hopelessly underprepared in our minds, but we were going to give it our best shot. And that's how I feel about my early life. It was so like, holy shit, I'm diving off a diving board. Is it a cannonball? Is it I don't know. It's like, I don't even know what it is. It's like, but yeah, just to equate that with finesse is almost like, I don't even know.
well, but you did. I mean, there's you play with a lot of dynamics, and I think that's the point Fred's making there is that, there's a lot of subtleties in the songs and in your playing, and
Well,
it's a
yeah,
lot.
well,
Yeah,
I think we all loved that. I think it was that got a lot of drummers. We all got kind of abused. We were sort of like, you need to kick ass. And we're like,
yeah,
it was like, and it was like, yeah, you do, but you don't really. I mean, if you listen to the great records that we grew up on, like, Mitch Mitchell and Bonzo, I mean,
yeah,
they're laying it down, but there's a lot they rarely get to an eight. They're playing
yeah.
within themselves, and that's such a beautiful place. If a band or if somebody or a singer or someone in the group will understand that you're not laying back and you're not being lazy. What you are is you're being cool. You're putting it out there. You're not like, I'm not playing drums at you. I'm playing
Right.
drums for you, and there's a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as you've pointed out before, and so many other great drummers, I think Joe and I talked about this on one of my shows, is listening. And the
Oh,
it's just the importance of just listening to the rest of the guys and not and playing with them. Like you say, and not trying to just stand out. And I think people have this. Some people, not everybody, but some people might have a misconception about Bonzo that he just played hard all the time. But like you said, I mean, he's so dynamic. There are places where he can bring it up, but he
oh,
can bring it right back down again, man. And just yeah,
oh yeah.
yeah, just
Oh yeah. I mean, that's just one example of a
yeah,
great, but yeah, I mean, actually the drummers I've learned to really come to know and respect more as I've gotten older are the drummers that have amazing, like I'll call them chops, but at lower volume. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yep,
guys that can do this, like watching Louis Bellson play, and he could take a press roll from the bottom of the basement. And it was like, where did that come from? You know what I mean? It was like,
yeah,
and then it
yep,
would go to like right about here, and then it would just melt away. And it's like, that's beautiful.
yeah,
So I think that's a lost art. And I think I mean, I know I'm older than you, but this generation of musicians that we're probably discussing might be the last ones to ever hear drums that weren't sampled or weren't sound
yeah,
replacement or quantized. And look, I'm not knocking it. I love making records today, and I have to use all of that, all that's in the library now. But I worry that like the actual library that brought me to the table, that got me into the room, I worry that that's atrophying, and the books have so much dust on them that it's like, okay, it's like so that's all. I hold it holy, but I
yeah,
guess every
yeah,
generation, every old fart probably said this, and I just don't want the next generation of musicians to miss out
yeah.
on
I
that.
absolutely, yeah, amen. No, we sing from the same hymn book. I mean, yeah, I'll unapologetically say that I have a hard time, listening to music that isn't kind of what we drums especially, that
Mhm.
isn't what we're accustomed to. And I'll just leave it at that.
You dig it.
I
I look,
yeah,
man, viva la difference, And
Yeah.
I think it's fabulous that I'm alive to see it. You know, I
Yeah.
have to start
Yeah.
there, you know, like, holy shit, it's like, I'm still here. It's like, but yeah, I have a very reverent time about, you know, what a band used to be and what it meant to each other. And that's usually about hunger makes that great sauce,
Yeah.
like if you're hungry, it all tastes kind of good, and once you're not hungry, everything gets a kind of a little bitter taste and you send the wine back. It's like you kind of go, oh, this 56 Rothschild doesn't taste as good as the one I had last. But man, a bottle of Ripple when you're looking for a buzz is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to
Yep.
me, it's like I think there's a lot, the romance, music is a romance language, and I think I would like to continue to speak it as long as possible.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's move to another track if we
Sure.
can. We'll move to the next record, Hard Promises. And thanks to you, Stan, for making some great suggestions. And I'm going to play Something Big.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, cool.
And and I wanted to ask you on this song, there's some percussion on this song.
Mm-hmm.
And was it you playing percussion?
No, that's Phil Jones.
It's Phil Jones.
At the time, he was my drum tech, and we really didn't know what he could do. But I remember going, like, can you play congas? Or, and I think I had a little set of mini goon bops, and he had some bongos, and it was fun. During the early touring, it was great. Like, I knew he was my tech, but then somebody said, Jones can play. And it was like, I saw him play my kid at soundcheck. He was like, damn, he's good. And then it was like, well, hell, I got a built-in support system. So we had a nice little thing going that felt pretty comfortable. And I'm pretty sure on a lot of those recordings, I mean, I was still doing like the tambourine overdubs and the stuff that I always did, but but I'm pretty sure this went down live like this.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great to and I knew Phil was a drummer. I didn't know he plays some great percussion, like you say. I mean,
he plays a great drum. He played on Full Moon Fever. He's played on a lot of music. I sort of lost track of him, but it's like, nah, he was great. And he was cool. Like, I love showing up to work every day and seeing Phil. It was like it was a lot of fun. I pretty much got a big stupid grin on my face every time I saw him. So that's gold.
All right, here we go.
Silent partner in that lonely corner room that overlooked the marquee or the plaza all adore. And he was not looking for romance, just someone he could trust. And there was no way to carry on. There wasn't no could put up with it for a little while. He was working on something big. Speedball rang the nightclub, said, send me up a drink. Now the nightclub said a Sunday man. Wait a minute, let me think. There's a little place outside of town, might still have some wine. Speedball said, forget it, can I have an outside line? And there wasn't no way to carry on, there wasn't no way to live.
I love how you set up all those different spots.
Once again, it's a jam. It's a jam. It's a jam. Like, I mean, that would have been like on the way in my mind to figuring out how to make the record. You know what I mean? Like that was probably an earlier take. And I was on the way to looking probably to go like, do you like that? Do you like that? But mostly what I hear when I hear that is I go, Ben Montanch, man.
Yeah.
Holy
God,
crap.
he's so great. He's
And
so
he's
great.
playing all these rhythmic things. It's just so beautiful, like dun, 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 dun. He's subdividing in this beautiful way that allows the drummer to be just roll out a carpet, like you don't have to, it isn't work when you got guys that can support something so simple. And they're not afraid to be the hole in the donut. They're not afraid to just hit it and get it, and like walk away from it. Nobody's doing this on the guitar, nobody's, there's like, and everybody's looking for space. And with that sound too, that Shelly Yakis got, the sound got the drums got bigger and bigger and more, they just got really fun for me, So
that song in particular, the drums really, the way that song's mixed too, like your China's really there and all the right places where it's like they were paying attention to you putting it in these certain spots where it really was a great accent in it, and it's in the mix that way. If that makes sense, like it's.
Oh, I got a lot of airtime. I got a lot of airtime on that track. You know what I mean? It was and it was the last of it. After that, everybody was like, we've heard enough out of you. You know what I mean? That was never brought up again. We never need to hear that. And it's but no, I could have gone another 10 years doing that. I loved that,
Yeah, it's and I'm glad you gave us the background on the fact that it was another song that was just sort of like a, finding your way through the arrangement, so to speak, because again, it has almost like a, I won't say meandering, but it just sort of loops its way along like down a river. You know what I mean? It just feels like it's just finding its way down a.
That's going to always be my favorite stuff. But that's like, I mean, that's going to be the favorite stuff that I ever played on in terms of actually being musical. I'm not saying that it's like not cool to do, I love that I'm on some tracks that have like tremendous, they're very disciplined and they're very worked out and the craft is there. But I love when you're almost playing a live gig and somehow it works in the studio. That's the greatest when you go like, you'll never do it again.
Yeah.
I couldn't, you can't play that. The whole band could never play that track again, I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's great that you had the foresight to record so many takes too, because you're recording on tape back then too. It was not cheap to do that, to have a whole bunch of takes and come back and choose from, it could have been easy to go, it was pretty good, but let's do another one and think you're going to get a better one,
I think we all would usually pretty much decide within that night. We didn't work on multiple songs during days. We're working on this song because you got to sound up, you tailor it. The guitars have to be tailored. The amplifiers are, everybody has to find, and Tom and Mike were very careful about, if you're going to be playing that guitar, I'll be playing this guitar. And Ben Mott was, if I'm playing a Wurlitzer, well, that's a sound. It wasn't like today where you just pull up the Wurlitzer in Pro Tools. It's like the old Whirly, you got to make sure it's in tune, and that's a whole movie and a Megillah and getting the amp distortion right. And so it would take a long time to just set up for these sessions. And then we would play those songs until either we'd had enough and we couldn't stand it anymore, or somebody would go, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's work on that pass,
Yeah.
And most of it was done vocal driven too. Tom, his guide vocal was the lead vocal,
Wow.
Like, I I mean, I imagine that vocal, there's probably, I would be surprised if there's any punches on that vocal that he fixed, because that was how tracks were determined.
Yeah.
And his vocal sound would determine the drum sound because it was in the room.
Right.
So if Tom redid a vocal, we'd have to make sure that the delay, like there was a slap back on there on that he had on his vocal. It was all very, very live in the moment, like there's very few overdubs really on most of those early records. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't any, but there's like, it wasn't that, you didn't build the track.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the band's playing. And that was done at Sound City also. Hard
I
Promises.
believe that's true. Yeah. Pretty sure that's, yeah.
And so it was like the same kit that you used on Damn the Torpedoes. It was the kit you used really on everything, the Tama kit.
Correct.
Imperial Stars. And it's almost like it as great as the sound was for Damn the Torpedoes, and it was like this incredible kind of revolutionary sound, so to speak. Shelley perfected it for how I think it got even better on Hard Promises.
Well, we talked about it because I remember asking during I thought Torpedoes sounded a little bit like I had a dog collar on, you know what I mean, as a drummer. And I remember him saying, well, your drum sound is in the Neumann 67s, the overheads.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and I've got 2 large cap mics in the back of this room too. He goes, but I don't turn them on because they're too noisy. And I remember he showed me one day what those microphones were really doing. And I just crapped my pants. I just went, oh my God, this is everything I wanted. This is, and he went like, well, that's a whole different thing, Stan. And so when we went to do Hard Promises, the drums got moved to a whole different part of the room where Shelley said, we can use more room if we put you in this corner and then we focus these room mics at you. But he goes, in the middle of the room where we were doing Torpedoes, if we brought up the room mics, and I'm not saying they weren't being used, but they were like, the close mics were the sound,
Yeah.
And
that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
But everything came alive when he turned up the room mics, and I went, fantastic. All of a sudden I could hear the hi-hat. I could hear like all this stuff, and the China was barking, and you could actually play, you could kind of get a nut under the headphones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, but yeah, but Shelley Ackes was, he really helped find a sound for me. He really did.
Yeah. Great engineer. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, you can hear the hiss of that China more on hard, like this had rivets in it, I think, right?
No, it didn't, but it was, I was warned, like, you probably better be careful. I was, Shelley would tell me like, it'll work there. Like, because I was probably trying it. He goes, because I mean, it was a big 22, what was I thinking? This is freaking garbage can lid, there's like.
What a sound though. But it had the pitch that just works so perfectly, right? I mean, if it was any smaller, it might have been just a tad higher than would have worked.
It was almost a gong. It was almost like it had a gong,
Yeah.
I don't know. Once again, the luck, the luck of all of it is so cool,
Yeah. I mean, it's such a special part of history. It's all, I keep coming back to that. It's, you and the whole band, of course, but I mean, you captured this moment in history and made this music that we'll be listening to forever, and our grandkids and their grandkids will be listening to.
Hey, the fact that that we're even talking about it is still kind of like I have a bipolar reaction. Like, why are we still talking about this? And wow, that's really cool that you care. You know what I mean? It's like,
hey, I don't want to make you nervous, but John Robinson, J.R. Robinson is watching too.
Oh man.
This
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the most star-studded show I've done with drummers in the audience. This is
JR, man. That's a guy. I shook his hand years ago, and every time I crossed paths with him, he is one of the kindest and most sincere and understated dudes. Then he gets behind a drum set, And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He's,
he's a scary man.
he's a scary man. He is. Yeah, he's a big, scary man.
Yes, he
Um,
is.
I'm going to throw a quick question your way too, Stan. I thought I'd ask you this question from Daniel McCarthy, asking if you have any memories of the Old Gray Whistle test show from 1978. I know there's lots of video out there of you guys. And that was in London, right? Is that where that was
I believe
shot?
that was, yes. There was a guy, Whispering Bob, somebody was the DJ, the guy, the announcer. I remember him. Yeah, that was really early. I think there's tape of it. I think there's a video, you can watch it. And yeah, I think it's kind of like probably is that the first or second album? It's probably maybe the second album.
Probably the second album. Yeah, I think like Listen to Her Heart and
yeah, right. Okay, that's
and
it was fun. And I remember being in England was fun because we kind of had a fan base in England. Like we were actually something in England, versus nothing here, yeah. England was great. I have great memories of England at the time. I'm really glad we got to have those years, in London.
Things happened a little slower here in the US, but you guys were pretty hot pretty quick over there, I feel like, right? It happened.
It was fast.
We had pretty fast.
We had singles, we had we were Top of the Pops, which I didn't even realize at the time was like a big deal. I thought it was, like, oh, whatever the hell that is. Then it'd be like, oh shit. The next day, everybody's like, oh yeah, Top of the Pops. And, there were posters of the band up on the, in London when I'd be in a taxi cab going, really? So, cause I think we were still rated for the Whiskey a Go-Go at that time, like if we could sell it out, So
yeah.
It was cool. We were playing theaters in London and it was fun.
Well, it didn't take long after that though, because by the time Damn the Torpedoes came out, you guys catapulted to superstardom.
It was a big deal. All of a sudden you were a known, it was a name, Tom Petty was a name and we could tour and they could associate certain songs with that name. It wasn't just like, oh, I've heard of you guys. It was like, oh, aren't you the guys? You're the American Girl guys, or you're the Breakdown guys, or you're the Refugee guys, or you were part of the. And I remember Tom used to say that when we turn in an album, we go and he'd say that one's probably going to be on the set list. Like he would, I need to know that one's going on the set list.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. That's cool. So whether we knew they were going to be hits, but we knew that one's probably got legs, it'll be fun to play live. And we knew that about American Girl. We knew that about Breakdown. We knew that about I Need to Know. We tried other songs, but like that one's staying on the set list, So, and then when Torpedoes came out, that was like, oh yeah, there's 4 songs that go on the set list. We don't have to do as many covers if we don't want to now,
That's wild.
But
I'm going to play another great song from Hard Promises. And this is a song that you really get to stretch in terms of like your groove and the creativity of what you play. Great song, Night Watchman. And really the drums, again, as we were just talking about on this record, on Hard Promises, they really kind of got to another level, I think, in terms of just sonically and the way you played them. You got such a great sound. And
it was the full Look at Me. There's actually a good live version of that, which kind of shocked me. Like, I don't know if I forget what record it's on, but they released it. We used to open the show with this, and man, talk about pure terror. Like, you ladies and gentlemen, and you walk out and like, these were the big gigs, we're in the big time now. And you walk out and you had to collect yourself, no clock, no like tempo map. And you had to, I remember, like the lights would come down and I'd go like, oh crap, I got to try to remember this isn't fast, but it's big. Oh, and crap, there's a bunch of harmonies I got to sing too that are really hot. It was like, I remember thinking, this is the full, if I can get through this song without mental collapse, I'm probably going to be fine for the entire show. But I don't, as drummers, I think you can all speak to, there's usually no graceful way to start a high pressure gig. You know, like, do you start it with a fast song? Like, oh, can't start it with a slow one. It's but this was the in-betweener, but there was so many moving parts to this
Yeah.
that, like, to play it live. Anyway, that's my memory of Night Watchman. It's like, holy crap, it was hard enough to make the record. Now I gotta open it, you know, like, anyway.
That's a
Wow.
great no. And I just took a quick look to see if I could find the live version. I couldn't find it. Unfortunately, I'll probably find it later, but I looked on Pack Up the Plantation. I didn't recall that it was on that. It wasn't
I
on
think
that.
it's on like American Treasure or one of those.
Okay, let me see if I can find it then.
I don't know.
I'll,
It's, yeah, just, it's from the Forum in LA. I'm pretty sure. It's just interesting. Like, as a drummer, when I'm talking to other drummers, I think you can appreciate the fear and the confusion that this song could bring when you start with it. Like, because, you know, the sound is never right. You did a sound check, but now there's butts in seats, so everything sounds completely different. The monitors are probably going to squeal, and it's just like, I just remember thinking, like, did these guys do this to punk me? You know, I kept thinking, like, it's like, you know, skateboard with 3 wheels, you know, or like, it's like, that's what it felt like, you know.
but this is, I mean, the studio version is nothing to shake a stick at. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
All right, dig this. I didn't want to fade it out before that cool fill. I knew that was coming up there, so we we had to hear that.
That's in retrospect, you go like, what was I thinking? But I'm glad I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, and that's, credit where credit's due. Mike Campbell had that music, basically, a very similar piece of music that he presented to the band. And, didn't have vocals, didn't, that was Tom's thing, but he had some kind of working weird drum drop that implied all that,
Yeah.
but to actually figure out how to do it, that one was a little scary. I remember when he played that track, I'm going like, holy shit, like really? Like I got to cash that check, but it was, fortunately they were already on, the band had already kind of known that it was going to be a, it had the boogaloo built into the demo. So it was up to the drummer to kind of, how do you sell that as a rock and roll part? So, but if I had just come off the shelf with that probably would have been like, what the, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
but that was really, there's, and I'm mostly, it's funny when you play the old records for me, I hear Tom singing because that's what I was always playing to. That was the only thing really I was listening to. It's funny, bass players, yeah, great. But Tom's vocal still tells me what I should have done or why I did what I did.
That's
so
cool. Yeah.
It's still what I hear. It's the phantom that will haunt me till my final breath. It's like the vocal was always what I wanted to play to, because he was very in and out of it. He never did the same thing once, so it was cool. He jammed on vocals, and it was your job to be supportive of that and allow him to freak.
Yeah.
And if he freaked, that was probably the record for me. I know groove and feel and all that. I'm aware, but my job was to set him up in my mind.
Yeah. Yep. And if I had to describe 99% of what you do, it's exactly that. You set up him, or you set up, the guitar solo coming in for Mike, or something like you set up these parts of the song. You obviously lay down a rock solid foundation, but I love that you do like what all my other heroes like Charlie and Ringo, you set up these transitional spots from the verse to the chorus, to the instrumental, to the B verse.
Yeah. It was my way of acknowledging that I'm enjoying this conversation. And because we didn't talk much, this was as close to a conversation as, hey, how you doing? You like that? Like, oh,
yeah.
What's your favorite color? It's like, this is how I learned about them. It's how I learned what Ben liked. We didn't talk about books until later,
Yeah.
We just knew that like, oh, he likes that. He likes and I like that. And Mike likes this, and Tom so this is like, 5 people that really had not much in common as dudes, but had everything in common with the collective thing they wanted to present. So
yeah.
you hear, I love hearing that bond. I love hearing the bond and I love hearing it in other people's music. When I listen to great tracks, I go, oh, the bass player's bonding with the guitar player. They're oh, that's so cool. Like, then you find out later they hated each other's guts, but not then.
Yeah.
Not when that went down. They loved each other when that went down. So
right on. Well, Stan, I located a copy of Night Watchman live.
Well, I think have we had enough fun with Night Watchman? You can just play the intro, and you can see the horror of opening a show with this. You don't have to play, obviously, but you could put your heart. Okay, all you young drummers, or even you old guys, imagine being, in your late 20s, and you're still not sure that you've arrived, but they're going to make you do this at an arena.
Oh, that's
You get
killer.
you get the idea. And then there's these super high harmonies that come in that I gotta do, like I'm shredding, like every part of me is just bleeding, you know? And you're probably like under some medical influence at this point too. And, it was just the perfect way to say, good evening,
Oh, well,
like,
you killed it,
anyway.
man. That's
Anyway, you
I
get the picture.
I get the picture, and I totally understand the pressure, and you rose to the occasion. That was, man.
It's pretty funny shit. It's like being in a live rock band. Yeah, there's nothing quite like it.
Well, I'm gonna jump backwards for a second, and
Sure.
everybody, we talked a little bit about the first couple of records, and you played a couple of, for the drummers watching, and there's a lot of drummers watching, you played some of the most creative and, legendary parts. I mean, I think the part that you came up with for Breakdown, and I know you've told this story before, but maybe you could give us the Reader's Digest version for anybody who
Sure.
hasn't heard it, because it's such a great story. But this is a song that all of us drummers agonized over for years, and I think you shedding light on it makes a whole lot of sense for people. All right, well, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, all episodes are available as podcasts on all the podcast platforms. But I also want to share some very exciting news with you. I've recently created a scholarship through the Percussive Arts Society. It's a Live from My Drum Room scholarship, and that 100% of the proceeds from all Live from My Drum Room t-shirts will go toward that scholarship. So if you've bought a t-shirt, thank you very much for supporting this. If you're interested in buying a t-shirt, I'm going to give you that information right now. Shirts are available for $25, and that includes the shipping within the contiguous 48 U.S. states. And they're available in sizes extra small to double XL. The Venmo payment information is at John-DeChristopher-2. Again, at John-DeChristopher-2. Please be sure to give me your size and shipping address. And you can email me with any questions at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com. 100% of the proceeds go toward this PAS scholarship, Live from My Drum Room. I thank you so much for your support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. I'll see you again real soon.